50 years ago this month, the Rolling Stones performed here in Fort Wayne, and their visit included a stop at the WANE-TV studios, where they appeared live on the Ann Cologne Show. It was a historic event that's now being commemorated with a special exhibit at the University of St. Francis. I sat down with the man who captured all of the photographs that would be included in that display.
We took some 2x4s, nailed them together, and then put this rope up, and that was the barrier. I mean, we were not used to something like this.
50 years after snapping this picture, Stephen Perfect remembers it like it was yesterday. He says back then he certainly didn't appreciate what he'd captured on film. Stephen was a cameraman at WANE-TV and often worked side by side with Ann Cologne, who had a knack for nabbing interviews with high-profile entertainers. The Rolling Stones, though, had only been around for about 2 years and weren't yet a household name.
None of us could have realized the longevity that the Stones and how great they had become. Here was a group that came in. Ann was going to do an interview. We set up the studio, and I was to photograph, and that was it.
It was November 12, 1964, and the Stones were in the middle of their second American tour.
That's the biggest crowd we ever had. I mean, it was like there were traffic. You had the traffic police out there. And again, the studio is just packed and lined up outside also.
Hundreds of people, primarily teenaged girls, packed inside the small WANE-TV studio just to get a glimpse of the group. As it turned out, one member was a no-show. Richard Gherkin was in the audience that day.
My favorite band member was Brian Jones, and he wasn't there. And that made me a little disappointed, because he was a guy I really wanted to see.
He said he wasn't able to hear much of the interview because the room was so full, but still enjoyed the opportunity to see the Stones in person.
I wasn't awestruck if, like a schoolgirl might be. I was just, matter-of-factly, they were just great.
Stephen Perfect, who saw the band through the lens of his camera, said he'd actually long forgotten about the pictures he took that day.
I would go through the contact sheets and select a few images, give a print to Ann, give a print to the station, and I would take one and literally put the negatives away for 50 years. Never thought about it.
That is until recently, when the University of St. Francis, where Stephen spent years as a photography professor, decided to create an exhibit featuring a dozen of those pictures. But gallery director Justin Johnson says every single moment that Stephen caught on film that day will be on display.
We blew up the proof sheets to a very large size, so if you were there at that event, you might see yourself in one of those proof sheets.
For Stephen, one picture in particular stands out in his mind: Mick Jagger in mid-laugh.
And that's the one I thought, because you would never see a relaxing moment like this. There were a few images like that, but this was my favorite, and that's the one that we printed, and I think that's a key photograph from the series.
The Rolling Stones exhibit begins tomorrow at the University of St. Francis with an opening reception from 6 to 9. It runs through December 21st. Gallery hours are Monday through Friday from 9 to 6, Saturday from 10 to 5, and Sunday from 1 to 5. We also have comprehensive coverage of their visit to Fort Wayne on our website. Just go to WANE.com.